Ryan Williams has all the God-given ability to be one of the best wide receivers in college football, but he must clean up his game to reach his high ceiling.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I'm Damian Parson. That's Keith Sanchez. And today's episode is brought to you by Odoo. Great organizations win because operations matter. That's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/locked on. That's odoo.com/locked on. And on today's episode, we're breaking down Alabama wide receiver Ryan Coleman-Williams. Couldn't get the whole name into the graphic, Keith, but people know who he is. The Alabama young wide receiver. I think he should be 19 this year. I think he turns 19. He'll be true junior because he started college football at 17 years old. We're going to break down, give you the full breakdown, explain our grade, give you any comps that come to mind, talk about the concerns when it comes down to Ryan Coleman-Williams. And then, of course, as we always do, kick the show off with the pros, Keith. Coming off last season, Ryan Coleman-Williams caught 49 passes for 689 yards, 4 receiving touchdowns. He's listed at 6', 182. Keith, let's talk about what some of the things that stood out to you for Alabama's young, explosive playmaker.
Yeah, I think it's obvious this is a fluid mover with the football, right? And I'll jump straight into like not comps, but just going through the list of Alabama wide receivers, right? And obviously they've been the Calvin Ridleys, they've been the Henry Ruggs, the Jerry Judys, the Devontae Smiths, right? As far as those slender builds, Calvin Ridley probably I think is on the heavier side, but what I thought he to me he fell somewhere in between Jerry Jeudy and Devontae Smith. Just as far as his overall abilities. I thought there was some start-stop ability to accelerate, decelerate with the football in his hands, like a Jerry Jeudy, right? But then also some of there's two sides to this. The hands part and being able to separate and route running, I've seen a little bit of Devontae Smith-ish in him. Obviously, we have to get into the concerns, right? And to pull a Band-Aid off, everybody know we're going to talk about the drops, right? That's going to be part of it. But I think just having the football in his hands, and Alabama leaned into that part. I want to say they ran the same play, DP, a few times last year in a couple different games I watched, where it was basically almost a wide receiver reverse screen. And they got the ball into his hands, and a couple of them, I believe he converted for big plays, one of them being a touchdown. I think it was against Wisconsin, that he had the touchdown. So listen, great vision, ability to accelerate, decelerate, decent contact balance, right? To be able to continue to pick up yardage with trash around your feet, right? Trash talking about defenders and stuff like that, arms flailing, legs, stuff like that. So he's a guy that you're going to want to get the football in his hands early, because there is something there to it. With him being a good run after catch guy.
Yeah, that's one of the things I jotted down, Keith, was he's an impact yak threat. This is a guy that when you get the ball in his hands,
impact yak threat.
Yeah, man. When you get the ball in his hands, Keith. I mean, heck, you go back to the remember the Georgia game, his first year, that touchdown on the right sideline, he catches it, spins and jukes, basically, loses 2 Georgia defenders and then takes it the distance, right? But he did a similar play like that against Georgia. I think the second time might have been the SEC championship game when they faced Georgia and everything, where they got him the ball in the quick game, and his ability to make guys miss. He's very sudden, and why I say he's an impact yak threat. He's one of those guys that's like, he can, like you said, that deceleration ability. He can slow his pace, but he gears back up at such a really quick acceleratory state. And when you got a guy like that in tight spaces, one-on-one, and if you don't get hands on him, he's an easy threat to get by you and then take that the distance. And that's what's so enticing about him, is that he's a twitched up athlete too, explosive guy, can put his foot in the ground and get vertical and get quick. You talking about that reverse screen, whatever it was against Wisconsin. And because they definitely ran that a good couple times last year that I saw on tape. And just that ability to let the block set up, and when he wanted to shift gears, he shifted gears. And you saw him pull away from Big Ten athletes who are still really good athletes as well. I think watching him, Keith, I see, like, going back to his first year, there's a reason why people were so excited for him coming into year 2 because of what he did in year 1 and because of the physical ability he does have. He's alignment flexible where he can play. Do I want to play him as much as the X on the boundary? Maybe not as much, but you can get away with that with the way we've seen, especially in NFL, where you take those outside receivers, reduce their splits to where they're closer to the line of scrimmage, away from the sideline, but technically they're still the outside receiver. Technically, you're still a Z. Technically, you're still the X, even though you're not right there at the sideline. You can put them in those type of situations. You talked about it with the screen, motion them, do different things, orbit motion. He's a guy that's easy to get the football to, and I love playmakers like that. And as we've seen over the past couple of years, Keith, the NFL loves playmakers like that. These OCs like guys that make their job easy, where it's like, man, I dial it up the right way. I get some blocks in front of you. Not saying he's not I want to make sure I, phrase this right. Guys, he's not a manufactured touch guy, where it's like he's a gadget receiver. He's a pure wide receiver that can do gadgety things as well. And that's what makes him such a fun play overall.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. The other part I want to get into, DP, I think he's a guy, when you draft him, you can dial him up and put him in the role of being your deep threat, vertical threat too. I think he's comfortable in that role. He's comfortable being that backside skinny post guy, being a seam guy, telling him run the 9 route. And I not only is he comfortable, I think he's comfortable in his releases in doing that. And intention, I think it wipes away some of the thinking for him. Because, like, listen, I just got to get vertical, right? Find a way to get vertical. And I think that's when you see his top end speed the most. I think that's when you see his acceleration. That's when you see his quickness. And then also the last part does a fairly good job of tracking the deep ball too. I've seen him do it over both shoulders and coming in at multiple different angles. His ability to get his head around either side and bring in the football. And I think that was another thing, the Georgia game from his freshman year, it was a deep ball that he caught. And he was a couple deep balls throughout over the past 2 years where you're like, man, like this guy getting vertical can be a real threat.
No, and to even add on to your point, like that, you don't typically see like those sub 6'3" back shoulder fade. He does that well. Like, you know what I mean? Where you're like, okay, he sees I have a 9 route and the corner is playing press bail or cover 3 side saddle drop, right? Bail technique. And he understands how to, like, that deceleration you talk about, decelling and then opening that back hip to be available for the football. And he tracks it very well, especially down the field in that regard. So again, you think about smaller receivers who are good at back shoulder fades or a little bit bigger than him, like Antonio Browns, Steve Smith seniors, the kind of more stocky built, shorter receivers that just understood body control. And I give him that too. Ryan Coleman-Williams has that body control for those type of throws. But yeah, that role, Keith, and before we transition, let me know what you think. What do you think? Like that role as a true deep threat? Absolutely, I think he can excel in and thrive in early in his career. What do you think he runs in the 40?
I went in between on some things. I thought there was sometimes I seen like mid 4.3 speed where I'm like, okay, he could be a 4.33, 4.35. There was sometimes I thought I'm like, okay, he's probably a 4.4 guy. If I had to guess with the proper training, I would peg him at a 4.39, 4.4 flat. I think he's somewhere in between, like naturally gifted speed. Obviously, it becomes difficult when these guys do training for 2 months versus 3 months, and if one arm swings the right way, just all those different things, right? But I think naturally, I'll give him a 4.39 or 4.4 flat. I do, man. And there were times where I questioned it one way or the other. But I just think that he knows that he's fast sometimes and triggers his speed at different moments. So that's why I would go.
That's what that's what I wanted to ask. I felt the same exact way. I'm like, I see 4.3 sometimes. I see that 4.4 flat. I'm like, I can't wait to the combine to really get that time dialed in. But I'm pretty sure he probably hits high 21s, 22s on the GPS when he's at full speed. He's got that type of speed to get over the top for sure. It's definitely excited for this young man, Keith. I'm excited to see him going into next season. Got a lot of pros that we were to talk about. But as we always say, what goes up must come down. We got to talk about those concerns too.
Yeah, and what went down was the football, right? Obviously there were a lot of drops, and we're going to get right into it. Usually I hand at it, DP, but I'm not hitting at it. We're going to get into the drops with Ryan Coleman-Williams. Why is he dropping the football, and how does that impact his overall perspective for us? What role can he fill in the NFL? We're going to discuss all those different things coming up next.
Support for today's episode comes from Square, the business platform helping sellers become neighborhood favorites. Whether you're preparing for a busy season or managing everyday demand, Square helps keep your business moving with everything from payments and online orders to inventory, staff management, and more, all in one place. So business owners can spend less time managing tools and more time focusing on their customers. Square helps simplify the everyday work behind running a business while giving owners the tools they need to keep growing. And it's something you notice when you're supporting the businesses, local businesses that you love most. It's the little things. Getting a digital receipt instantly, a smooth checkout, not waiting while someone tries to figure out a new system. And right now, listeners can get up to $200 off Square hardware when you sign up at square.com/go/LockedOnNFL. That's SQUARE.com/go/LockedOnNFL. Get started with Square and build a setup that works the way you do. Before we break down the concerns for Ryan Coleman-Williams, get your daily Locked On NFL draft fix completely ad-free by joining the Everydayer Club today. Start your 7-day free trial right now and get closer to your team without the interruptions. Click the link in the show notes or go to lockedonnfldraft.supercast.com to claim your free trial today. Keith, as we have been graciously hinting at it, trying to be not even to be subtle. We just kept the buck.
I haven't been subtle at all.
We have not been subtle about it. Keith, talk about it. I'll let you kick off the conversation. We know we got to talk about those drops. He was accounted 10 drops last season for Alabama, and some head scratching ones. I think against Georgia, he was like wide open down the field, dropped it with nobody around him. Talk about it, Keith.
It's concentration drops, DP. And it's concentration drops that he has to make sure doesn't involve into overthinking drops, and that can become the biggest concern. And listen, you can equate it to different sports, right? You can equate it to players shooting free throws, right? When in that stadium kind of it slows down, right? You're not in the course of action, and it slows down to where you have time to think, right? And you start to miss those free throws. It's hitting slumps for baseball players, right? It's those different things to where you're missing the easy ones. And some of the ones that he's dropping are just flat out easy. And I think the pressure of, we have to remember, right? At some point, this was a battle between him and Jeremiah Smith of who was wide receiver one. At some point, they were saying this guy can win the Heisman. He was obviously on the cover of NCAA was it?
Yep.
Last year.
26,
right? Like, so a lot of pressure as a young man, people talking about how much money he's making, right? I think all of those things came to every single play. I have to be the guy to hit a home run, right? And when you think about doing too much, you forget to do the little things, right? The little things that come with being a good wide receiver, and it's just looking the football in, right? Like, and they say it, and we had it at LSU, take a picture with the football, meaning that make sure that you look at the football all the way through, pause, just make sure you get your hands on the football and bring it in, because without the football, there's nothing there. And I think he just needs to get back to the basics. Is it concerning for me? I'll be completely honest, yes. Because a repeat performance of what last year was, I'm not sure if that reaches all of the peaks that he set out for himself and all of the expectations that everybody has for him. Because you have to be reliable, right? Like you said, the play against Georgia, and there's a couple other drops where we just like, I don't get it, right? Like and I think last year was so big, DP, because it almost, you felt the magnitude of the drops, and it to me, it kind of started to domino effect / snowball a little bit. If you ask me.
No, I'm with you, because I think, like you talked about having it become a consistent thing. It becomes, like you said, overthinking drops. Then it becomes confidence drops, where you're just not confidently catching the football, and you're in, like you said, just from overthinking, you're in your own head constantly. Like, listen, wide receiver drop passes, man. It happens. You know what I mean? I think Devontae Adams, even though he led the league in touchdown receptions last year, he had about 8 or 9 drops.
Terrell Owens had a couple stats like that too throughout his career.
Where he led the league in drops, as a matter of fact.
The drops thing is weird. You know what the drops thing is? The drop thing is very similar, in my opinion. It falls in that same weird bracket with the interceptions for the quarterbacks. If you look at the quarterbacks who've thrown the most interceptions in their career, it's kind of the best ones. It's all the all-time greats. It's the Peyton Manning, the Brett Favre, the Tom Brady's. Like it's those guys in there, if I'm not mistaken. So I think there's part with a volume thing. I think you have to look at, and this is gonna sound so weird, the quality of the drop, right? Like you have 100%. And pull back that part of it.
That's a great point, because I always talk about, like, people use just blinking, like, oh man, targets. I'm like, volume targets sounds great in a vacuum. I want quality targets. I don't want 200 targets, and let's say 100 to 50 of those are not A caliber targets, right? Or even B caliber. We got more average to below average targets, but he got 200 targets. That doesn't matter to me. I want quality of targets. So that's a big thing too. It's just like, hey, I think with his drops, it's keeping the confidence up. It's going to the film, and scouts, what we do. We looked at it like, it's not that he can't catch the football. And remember Casey Concepcion? That was a big talking point for him this season, this past draft, where people are like, oh, the drops. And I'm like, some of it was, okay, the throw wasn't completely on target. Some of it was hand turnover. I think I did my breakdown of him on YouTube. I said he was a clapper. He clapped the ball. Like, and at times you want to see him, instead of trying to trap it, just throw the diamond up. And like you said, look it in naturally and then secure it, right? So I think Ryan Coleman-Williams can definitely fix that this year. And I would be shocked if he's not worked on that this whole entire offseason, Keith, of just catching the football, getting back to being a secure hand catcher, like really focusing it in. Like, yes, I think that play against Georgia I talked about, I think it might have been a post route or a seam or something. You're by yourself. I know in your mind you're thinking about scoring right now. Like, you're like, man, I'm ready. The ball's I'm ready for it to get here so I can. And then you become a runner before you caught the ball. Like, that's Keith, how many times we've seen receivers do that? They on a slant route, you catch it, you see that there's a pathway to open grass. You already opening your hip to run, and you haven't secured the ball yet. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just concentration, I think, with him. But like you said earlier, you don't want that to become overthinking drops. You don't want it to become lack of confidence drops and everything. So definitely want to see him clean that up, Keith. I think also, I think from a concern standpoint, frame, 6 foot, 180, 182. Yeah. Thin, wiry frame, Keith. He's slender.
Yeah, and if that's listed, right, what if it's 5'11", 175, right? Where do you place that
now?
Would
be now Delish.
Yeah, but you also, that's the thing, you have to be dynamic when you're that size, right?
Absolutely.
Like you have to now jump into, and I'm going to show you have a couple comps that you want to get off too, but you have to get into the Deshaun Jacksons of the world to where you are that deep vertical threat. And tying into the first segment that we did, that 40-yard dash has to be sub 4.4, 175 pounds. If people are going to draft you to be the number one wide receiver, you have to be in the 4.3s, right? Because people have to believe you can instantly become that vertical big play threat. That's what you have to be able to sell to the franchise. That's what the franchise has to believe that they can, the role that they can put you in, no doubt.
No, 100%. Like I think for me, with his frame, like I think he has a good release factor, as you talked about earlier. I think when you understand, like you're going from college, when you get to the NFL, you're going to face corners when they get in press coverage. They're very patient. They're tacticians. You know what I mean? We always talk about PS2. I think from an NFL standpoint, the two most patient, my top three patient corners that I've seen in the NFL: Denzel Ward, Patrick Surtain, and I think Derek Stingley. When they get up in the line of scrimmage, they don't have to get hands on. They don't have to reroute you early in the rep. They don't have to be super physical and two-hand jam you. They're going to mirror you and until you release. And then they give you a nice little love tap, the little push to the sideline, arm bar you. Heck, Keith, I'm pretty sure you've seen all the times Jamar Chase, when people ask him who's the best, the corner you face the most, or the corner that you love facing, and one of the best corners in the league, he's always talking about Denzel Ward. And it's really, if you watch him, it's because Denzel don't play the game that Jamar Chase wants you to play. He wants you to get up on the line of scrimmage and think you can press him. He's like, cool, so now I can throw you out the way and I can get to my route. He's got to be more patient with dealing with a guy like Denzel Ward. For Ryan Coleman-Williams, you're going to have to deal with that too. And when you're dealing with guys who are patient but they also stronger than you, and they do decide to put put hands on you at the line of scrimmage, that's why I see he can get kind of stonewalled, early in the rep. And that's when you're like, hey, do we need to put you in the slot? Do we need to keep you off ball? Do you need to be in the offense with one of these Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan disciples where teams aren't going to get the chance to press you, right? So I just want to see him kind of maybe increase that, put a little bit more bulk on the frame without losing speed, and then increase his play strength in the contact window. Because in the NFL level, Keith, guys are DCs are going to be like, okay, he's explosive, he's fast. You're 6'1", you run a 4.4, jam him. Like, let's disrupt that timing. Let's keep, because he's a good route runner too. We didn't get a chance to really talk about it. I think he's a good route runner, patient, tempo, all that stuff is there. But then he's also explosive. So how do you stop an explosive threat? You put something in front of him, Keith.
Yep, I agree. With DP, let's do this, man. Let's explain the grade. Let's go ahead and drop our current draft grade for Ryan Coleman-Williams entering the 2026 college football season. Let's discuss that coming up next.
Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone working toward the same goal. That's true in sports just like it is in business, and there's no better representation of that than the New York Knicks. Everybody on the Knicks roster worked together and worked in one accord to become NBA champions and bringing the title back to New York City. Great organizations win because operations matter. That's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's ODOO.com/lockedon. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day. And thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in America. It's all because of you, our everydayers. The main reason we can celebrate 10 years of being in business. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. Keith, Ryan Coleman-Williams explaining the grade. We're going to talk some comps. I got one. We've been on the same wavelength, so I want to see if we hit the same comp on today like we did yesterday. So talk to us, Keith. What grade do you have for Ryan Coleman-Williams right now coming off of last year's tape?
Yeah, man, I struggle with this one. It was a battle of like, some football games, you see a battle of two halves. It's the battle of two different tapes, right?
Two
the highlights and the lowlights. And so with that, I averaged it out to, I gave him a second round grade. And I had to ask myself, are you okay with this? You go through the whole emotional thing, right? When you're grading, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's very you versus you thing. Talk to myself a little bit about it, and I'm fine with that. And I'm comfortable with giving him a second round grade entering the summer based off of what he did last year and his freshman year. And then obviously with the opportunity to move back up into that upper echelon tier, just with grading. But the things we discussed with I'll tell you this, the big plays, the explosiveness, the carrying the football, run after the catch stuff is great. Then you factor in the size, right, concern, and then you factor in the drops. I'm sitting there looking and I'm like, okay, this is more of a second round prospect from the perspective of, this is the conversation I really want to get into. Is he a wide receiver one? And what are some examples of this being a wide receiver one in the NFL? Give me wide receiver ones with this body type, with this frame, that operate in this way, that are wide receiver ones in the NFL. So that's why I went round 2 for him.
Yeah, I went back and forth on this one too, Keith, because you call it a tale of two tapes. I call it tale of 2 years. Rookie, I mean, the freshman was called rookie. Freshman year, he was sensational. Really, like, just burst on the scene. Like you said, the conversation was what it was. It wasn't Cam Coleman. It wasn't Nick Marsh. It wasn't Charlie Becker. It was Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Coleman-Williams, or right at the time, Ryan Williams. And how that has changed in the calendar year. Like Jeremiah Smith continued to ascend, and Ryan Coleman-Williams descended a little bit. I still have a first round grade on Q. I got him as kind of mid first in that 15 to 20 range right there. I think that the tools, the yak ability, the route running, the explosiveness, the crazy enough, we talked about the ball tracking. Even though he got the concentration drops, but he tracks the ball well.
It's a very weird thing to watch.
It's very odd. It's just like, bro, if you could just tie everything together, your process would be immaculate. You got a release package, you're explosive, you're dynamic, you can run routes, you can create separation, and you track the ball well down the field. Now, if we could just complete the process on more times than not, we're going to be just fine. And I think that he could be in for a big season with the what it looks like the young quarterback Keelan Russell might be the starter for them this year. Saw a lot of stuff, it's between him, I think Austin Mack. Seen a lot of the clips on stuff like that. The young man looks good. Like, we'll be talking about him pretty soon, Keith, whenever his time comes in terms of what he can do with the ball, arm talent, accuracy, all of that. And if so, Ryan Coleman-Williams, we need 1,000 yards. We need 1,100 yards, 1,200 yards from you because you're that caliber of player, Keith. And so comps, Keith, I want to get into the comps when it comes down to Ryan Coleman-Williams. So the first one that came to mind, I started thinking about Garrett Wilson. And I have Garrett Wilson's measurements, I think, from the combine or whatever it was that year. 5'11", 3/4, 183 pounds. He ran 4.38, jumped 36 in the vert. He had 32-inch arms with a wingspan of 76 and a half. And then there's another one that came about. He's listed an inch and a half taller, though. Jameson Williams, JMO, 6'1 and a half, 179. When you talk about could he be in the 170s, 179, and we know that JMO is like a 4'2", 4'3" athlete with that track background that he has. So those were two. I thought about Chris Olave too, but Chris Olave is closer to like 190. From the weight on mock draftable at least. So I was like, maybe not Chris Olave, but definitely in that Garrett Wilson type of mold, especially if he isn't 6 foot even, and he's 5'11", 180, 183. I could see that being a Garrett Wilson type of situation for him.
Yeah, I like the Garrett Wilson one is interesting. The Chris Olave one I thought about, just overall, and the role I could see him playing a Jameson Williams role. Obviously, like you said, that 40-yard dash time, you got to be able to pick him up, put him down, right? We got to figure out that level of speed. DP, I went with a more throwback-ish name. And probably in our prime era of growing up watching football and stuff, really tapping in. I mentioned Deshaun Jackson earlier in the show. I thought of one of his running mates, Jeremy Macklin.
Ooh, okay.
And I went to J-Mac stats, right? And looking at him, and I'll kind of flush all of this out, right? I think he had an 8-9-year career. And the high points, right? He had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. There were quite a few. He had 2 800-yard seasons and 1 900-yard season, right? So really good production, right? 2 double-digit touchdown seasons. And discussing it, I went with a role thing, right? From a perspective of, and that's the part I want to get into, drafting him. Do you feel as though he can be a wide receiver one for offense at this very moment? I think that was the biggest thought. I think that's what I'm still trying to figure out, and that's what this year is going to prove to me one way or the other. If when I'm drafting you, I feel like you can be a wide receiver one, because especially at these programs with high level talent everywhere, and you've seen it a lot with the Bama wide receivers, right? Is that not all of these guys come in and they're wide receiver ones. Some of them are really good 1Bs, some of them are really good 2s, right? But there at Alabama, they were able to operate in these vacuums and put up these big numbers, but didn't necessarily mean that it translated to them being wide receiver ones. So I think honestly, that's probably the biggest part that I'm still trying to flush out with Ryan Williams, is if he can be a wide receiver one in the NFL.
That's where, like, I think that's where I'm at too. It's just that it's not a given. Like, you know what I mean? When you look at Jeremiah Smith, you're like, that's a given. You're a wide receiver one. Cam Coleman, like, that's like wide receiver one, right? Yeah, with Ryan Coleman-Williams, with the body type, with the drops and stuff like that, like, okay, because again, are there many guys built like that are wide receiver ones in the league?
That's what I was thinking. And the answer is no.
No, you know what I mean? That's why I was like, okay, Garrett Wilson, 5'11", 183. But I think, and this is going to be a talking point in terms of like archetypes, I think that'd be a fun episode kind of breaking down like past like wide receiver archetypes. and body types and why we lean one way or the other. When you're built the way like a Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave and even and Jameson Williams and we talking about Ryan Coleman-Williams, when you're built that way, you need an accurate quarterback. Like, you know what I mean? Because you don't have much of a catch radius. Mm-hmm. You don't have the ability to extend the area code and different things like that. You don't have that in your bag. You know what I mean? When you're not 6'3" with a 78, 79-inch wingspan and, you know what I mean, 33-inch arms or whatever the case may be. So, yes, that when – and Keith, I'll be honest with you. I've definitely come around. I used to push back so hard when people would bring up body types and stuff like that early in my career scouting. I'm like, man, this dude can ball, man. You know what I'm saying? But it was more so – hey, listen, it's not many 5'5" hoopers in the NBA. Muggsy Bogues was Muggsy Bogues. Like he was an anomaly. You know what I mean? Like he's the exception, not the rule. So it's like I eventually came around to that thinking of, well, like, all right, look at the NFL landscape, really look at it. What body type, what skill set is winning at receiver as a one? Could he be a high end too? 100%. He could absolutely be a high end too and be a high end, impact player for a team. But I with you, Keith. I think, Jeremy Macklin is a good one. Jeremy Macklin is a good one. And a lot of people, listen, if you don't remember Jeremy Macklin, please go to YouTube, check out his highlights. Like that dude could ball. Coming out of Missouri, I think it might have been him and Blaine Gabbert.
And he was and I think that it felt good for what you said where you have him right now. If I'm not mistaken, he was a first round pick. I think he went like 16 to 18 or something like that. When he was initially drafted. So that's where I could see Ryan Williams also going, right? A team that just wants a solid wide receiver. And then you think about another guy that I thought of, and I just thought of kind of role maybe more than anything, but a good player. And I really appreciated him. And maybe this sound, but I thought of Robert Woods too. Him playing in an offense like that, being able to get open, get separation. And if you pair him with somebody else, it's like, man, could be really good combinations. Now, career arcs are different because there's so many different things that happen, right? You have injuries, you have whether the quarterback is good or not, whether the quarterback got injured, and just different
coaching changes, everything.
Yeah, all the different things happen surrounding these players, but taking the players in the vacuum of who they were is how I was looking at that when I brought up Jeremy Macklin and just his body type and profile and how he won things like that. I see it from that perspective.
No, I think that's a really good compliment. I mean, the outcomes for Ryan Coleman-Williams, there's a variety of outcomes, but there's some really good outcomes for this young man. And like I said, the big thing for him this year, just catch the ball. Just catch the ball. Like bring the ball in, make those routine catches routine. As you always say, Keith, make the layups. Like if we always talk about that with quarterbacks. Like, hey, that 3-point shot, you don't need to take that deep 60-yard bomb every time. That running back's in the flats, get that 5 yards, 2nd and 5. We stay ahead of the chains and we're on schedule. Take the layups. For Ryan Coleman-Williams, make the layup. Like, you know what I mean? Just make the layup. You in the layup line, don't be smoking layups on a fast break. We don't like seeing stuff like that. Just catch the ball. If it's underneath, it's in your hands, reel it in, and then get into your bag and be a creative yak threat. But you can't do that. You can't make things happen without the football. It doesn't count. So I want to see him catch the ball this year and really, really take his game to another level.
Yep. I agree with DP. That wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. If you're watching on YouTube, remember, guys, go like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and stay tapped in with your favorite NFL draft duo, myself and Keith Sanchez. If you're listening on the audio side, please just support the podcast, leave us a 5-star rated review and everything, and then share it with somebody else, man, and continue to support your boys. On tomorrow's show, I mentioned them earlier, Charlie Becker, the guy that burst onto the scene for the Indiana Hoosiers. Well, guess what? We know who you are now, Charlie. Everybody does. So we're going to break down this game, the pros, the cons, explain the grade, give you some comps as well. All of that on tomorrow's show. So come join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.